I'm Mindi Abair, and you're listening to Rock at Night.
Yeah. Are you ready? Hey, tonight I'm gonna take you on a little trip. We're going down south by the mighty Mississippi. I'm gonna take you to a place where lights never dim. Bring your mother, your brother, and your best friend. I'm gonna show you where they dance out in the street. They'll tell you all about your body heat. I'm not gonna talk about it, just gonna do it. Get on down if you feel good. Now, get on down.
This is Charisse at Rock at Night, and I'm here today with Mindi Abair, saxophonist, singer, songwriter, and she works in so many different genres now: jazz, blues, pop, rock. She is a two-time Grammy nominee, 2014 Best Pop Instrumental Album, 2015 Best Contemporary Instrumental Album from her LP Wild Heart, which features a lot of her famous friends. We'll talk about that during the interview. She's been on American Idol, The Late Show with David Letterman. She's played with The Roots on The Tonight Show, toured with Aerosmith. So much to go over. You're just everything. I mean, and now you're even in the wine business with reserve tastings. You've written a book called How to Play Madison Square Garden. There's so much to talk about with you, Mindi. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. We've been friends a long time, and I just love what you do. So I think it's fun to, sit down with your friends and talk and have fun. So thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure having you, and I thought this would be kind of like a girl talk hour, and that's kind of what we want to talk about, especially since you have a song called Pretty Good for a Girl. You have a website that's called Pretty Good for a Girl. You're all about female empowerment, and so let's begin with that. First of all, you play the saxophone. That's not really considered to be a quote girl instrument.
No, it's not. But you know what? No one ever told me it was odd for a girl to play a saxophone until it was way too late. I was in love with it, and it had become just a huge part of who I was. And I look back to fourth grade band, and I literally walked through the door, and my band instructor, Ann Reynolds, had put all these instruments out on the ground, and she just said, pick one that looks cool to you and go back to your seat and we'll learn how to play them. And I literally grew up on the road with my dad's band. My dad had this band called The Entertainers, and it was this blue-eyed soul band, super high energy. My dad was the saxophonist. And I would watch him from the time I was born, just, shake and shimmy and rock that sax. He just looked like he was having a blast every night playing. And I wanted to have that much fun. So I picked that saxophone up and I brought it back to my seat. And you know what? It's a lot of years later and it's never let me down. It's awesome.
That was here in St. Petersburg?
Yeah, no, I grew up right in St. Pete. I mean, the first 4 years of my life, we were just on the road. We were, moving around. But as every band does, my father's band broke up and we moved back here to St. Pete. So it was St. Pete, Northside Christian School, fourth grade band.
Wow. Man, it was destiny that you
It was.
That it's destiny that it's in your blood that you would have to be playing rock and blues and jazz and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I grew up with a lot of different music around me. And I think that looking back, that was a huge influence on who I became. I mean, my father played in this soul band. My grandmother was an opera singer.
Oh.
Just stereotypical, huge woman, huge personality. And then my father went from playing soul to putting together rock bands, and he would put together, I mean, 8 bands a year that would tour the country. So I would always sit in their practice rooms, and just listen and, and love it. And then MTV came along. I wanted to be, Ann and Nancy Wilson from Heart or the Go-Go's or Tina Turner. I wanted to play like Clarence Clemens from Bruce Springsteen's band. It was a really interesting way to grow up, to just have music surrounding me that was so different. So I didn't grow up with some kind of idea that, oh, I play saxophone, I should be a jazz player, like everyone has told me for the last lifetime. I wasn't aware of that, so I didn't become your father's jazz player as a saxophonist.
So when you were growing up, you probably were around, shall I say, celebrities or other musicians that might be famous. I mean, that's normal for you, right?
Growing up, I was never around anyone famous. I mean, I grew up in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's not the musical mecca of the universe. I now have a bunch of friends from living in LA for a lot of years. They grew up with celebrity. They went to high school with people who became huge actors or, really notable musicians. But for me, I didn't grow up with that at all. I grew up being a fan of people I saw on television, on MTV, or who I heard on the radio. I was a total radio girl. I listened, 24/7 and just had fun, being a fan. But for me, I didn't really meet anyone famous until, college and beyond. So I just knew I wanted to play. I knew I loved music. My father was a musician and my grandmother was a musician, but they never pushed me, and I thought that was really cool. We lived in this awesome little small town. They didn't want to push me to go into what they went into. My father would always say, "Look, this isn't sexy. This is not a rose garden. All you see is what's amazing on television or what you hear on the radio, and it sounds and looks incredible, but it's not an easy road. It's not an easy business, and especially for a woman." And I didn't know what he meant by that. Thankfully, I just knew I loved to play, and that drove me.
Was there a moment in your career when you realized being a woman was different? What are some of your early experiences?
I was so lucky that I was just in this beautiful bubble of people telling me you can be whatever you want to be and you can do whatever you want to do if you become excellent at something. There were no barriers in my growing up. You could be white, black, gay, straight, a woman, a man, short, tall, whatever. And if you really put your time in and you cared about it and you loved something, it was all possible. And I love that. I had total hippie parents and grew up in that hippie environment that it was peace, love, and, saxophone for me. But the first time I really had any inclination that it was a different playing field, I so wanted to be in the Florida All-State Jazz Band, and I actually made it into that jazz band. I was the first chair alto sax in the jazz band. And so University of Miami asked me, "Hey, would you come audition for us? We have a jazz program." And I was like, "Oh my God, the big city, Miami." So, we drove down and I went down to audition, and I was so excited. I was 17 years old and just, this is it. I'm going to go to college for music. I'm going to play. And I walked into the saxophone professor's room and all ready to play. And he looked at me and he goes, "Look, I just want to tell you, girls don't make it at this school. So I'm going to let you into the education department. That's totally fine. But I won't let you into the jazz department." And I was just, I just stood there. Like the wind was totally let out of my sails. I just had no idea that anyone would feel that way. 17 years old, I was just
Was he
bummed.
Was he an old fart type or something? I mean,
He was the saxophone professor there. So, yeah, he was the
wow.
establishment. And I tried to change his mind. I talked to him and just said, what if I play for you? What if I play and change your mind? And I'd like to be in this department. And he goes, you can play. It won't change my mind. So I gave him my best shot. I played, but he did not let me into the jazz department. He did let me into the education department, and I told him to take a hike. I did not go to that school. I ended up going to Berklee College of Music, where I was 3% of the population. Women were 3% of the population of that school, Berklee College of Music in Boston. And they loved the fact that I was a woman, and they loved the fact that I came from a different musical background and that I was looking for different things. And it was really cool to see someone look at diversity as something that was a plus instead of, well, you can't do this. I'm going to tell you what you can do. So I just figured one day I would go back and I would look at that professor and go, you made a mistake. I've done this and this and this, and you should have let me into your school. And that happened a couple of years ago.
It
Then he
did.
apologized.
Actually, you actually got to see them. I'm surprised he's still alive.
Yep, yep, still there, and hopefully he's letting in more women now.
Wow. Like,
I know.
take that.
Well, you know what? I think we all take bad things that happen in our lives, or things that are setbacks, and we can use them in different ways. I could have taken that as just, oh, okay, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder and I'm just going to, think the world is against me and whatever. But for me, I took it as this quest that, I had the power to change people's minds about what a woman was capable of, or what a woman should look like or sound like, or what music a woman should make. So I looked at it as a cool quest every night when I was in a band that, I was going to change those misconceptions about what women were in music or beyond.
So in a sense, you felt like I'm going to prove you wrong. And it basically emboldened you to try harder and show him. And indeed you did years later. What a story.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look back and I just think that's cool. I had a fire lit under me that I had something to prove. Like, oh, yes, I can. Oh, I can do this. Don't try and stop me. So it's a cool thing to see people's minds change through the years of what women are and can be in the music business.
Mhm. Now, after you graduated, you went out to California, correct? And
Yeah.
that was where I guess you did busking, you did everything, right? On the streets, just trying to get your big break.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, being a female there, I mean, were you treated any differently in the corporate business and just the music industry, period?
Moving to LA is a huge deal. I had come from a very small town, St. Petersburg, and then gone to college in Boston, which was a bigger city, obviously. But you're a student and you're learning and you're just in that environment of playing all the time. It's not the real world. You're in this microcosm of learning and being around people who are in the same place as you. To jump into Los Angeles, for me, there was this huge realization that whether I was a woman or a man or anything, they didn't really need me. Was enough, there were enough players of every instrument that existed in LA that were amazing at what they did, just incredible musicians. They didn't need any more of us. And that was a bit daunting to realize, oh my gosh, I've got to find my place in this business that doesn't necessarily need me. And so that was the first thing. But then, yes, I did realize that being a woman, it was a different thing. I remember walking into a jam session because, at first, you don't know anyone. I didn't know anyone. So I would look up where the jam sessions were and go and just try and sit in so I could meet people. And this one particular jam session, the guy just turned me down all night. Hey, could I sit in? It's a jam session. I'm seeing, 20 people sit in over the night. And, could I sit in? I play saxophone. And he would just be like, no, no. And finally, at the end of the night, I mean, it's almost the last song. And I went up and I just said, come on, you've put me off all night. Like, let me play. And he looked at me and he goes, you tell whoever wants to sit in to go sit in. I don't even think he thought that I was a player, And looking back, I probably looked more like a cheerleader than a saxophonist. I mean, I'll be honest. But I went and sat in and I met a bunch of people that night and they were super cool to me. The moment I played was the moment that it all became a level playing field and there was mutual respect and I started to make friends and that would snowball. But, those initial things of, wow, people do judge you differently based on your appearance. You just have to fight past those.
That's it. I mean, here you were young, cute, like you said, like a cheerleader girl, you're petite, you're blonde, and they're thinking she doesn't play. And
Right.
it's like you have to keep proving yourself to other people over and over and over that I really do play. And don't judge me by my appearance. I mean, that seems to be the trend.
Yeah. And I talk to my girlfriends who are musicians and who are very, accomplished and incredible and have made a name for themselves. And that we all have the same stories that we really did have to be more professional, that we did have to be on time, dressed well, paying attention to everything, knowing everything, knowing every bit of music. You have to be at a higher level to, be recognized and to, be hired again and again, unless you're making your own. I decided I wanted to be a band leader. I wanted to be the artist. I wrote my own songs. I was an instrument player that was a front instrument and a singer. So it made sense for me to make my own and not wait for people to hire me. So that was always my inclination to be a solo artist. And then it doesn't matter. Now I'm judging you. Now I'm the band leader, like, should I hire you or should I not? Do you look the part? Do you not? Do you not? So a lot of the really successful women I know have become band leaders and have run their own show. And I think that's such a cool thing.
I guess you're in the driver's seat. It's just like women that have their own record label. In fact, you pretty good for a girl. That's a label.
That's mine.
So, I mean, it's nice to not have to, bend down or take crap or whatever, from other people, having, try to impress them. It's a whole different ball of wax. But when you're, I guess, trying to make it in the industry, you have to follow the rules or whatever.
I think it's up to each of us to find our place in our own industry. We all, come at it from different angles. We all want different things, whether we want to be a side musician or whether we want to be a songwriter for other people or ourselves or a solo artist. But I think that we all kind of have to find our own way of what is comfortable for us. And I know I struggled early on when I was in college. I used to wear men's suits and I just dressed like one of the guys because I wanted to be respected like one of the guys. I kind of felt that people were looking at my legs more than they were listening to what I was playing. And I didn't want that. That's not where I was coming from. I wanted to be respected like one of the guys. So I went too far in the other direction. And I see a lot of women playing those games, trying to find, who we are and trying to find our place in what is definitely a man's world in the music industry. But boy, there was a time that I stopped trying to prove and I stopped trying to fit in. And I don't know what snapped. I don't know what changed, but I I felt this sense of self, and I felt this peace about, wait, I'm a woman and I like makeup and I like wearing, fun clothes and girly stuff. And I'm going to write different songs than the guys. I'm going to play differently. And wow, I'm just going to be that. And if they like it, cool. And if they don't, whatever. I'm just being me. That is when things started opening up for me. And it's a drag that it took a while for me to kind of find that place, but we all have to find it, and we all have to go through our own kind of journey to find it. And boy, what a nice thing to just be yourself and make music and be happy with yourself.
Wow. That's a testament to hanging in there. That was actually one of my questions. If you actually had to dress down or dress masculine or wear a suit just to be taken seriously, where you really can't, like you said, wear makeup, wear lashes, wear whatever, wigs, and the way you want to look. You're trying to look the way other people want you to look rather than the way you want to.
But then when it's so much easier to be yourself rather than try and be something you think other people want you to be. And, now, and for a long time now in my career, most of my career now, I've been myself, and it's been awesome to find bands and find musicians and find situations that fit me and that are right for me. Aerosmith is a perfect example. Touring with Aerosmith, I was hired because Steven loved the fact that I was a woman. Steven Tyler thought it was so cool that I could go out there and rock out and kind of be one of the guys, but not be one of the guys. The same with Duran Duran. When I joined Duran Duran to tour with them, those guys love art and they love fashion and they love, the kind of artsy, kind of bigger than life thing that they create. They're all about the music, but I fit into that because I was that same mindset, and we loved to create a look and a presence, and it all fit. Now those gigs couldn't have happened if I wasn't being true to who I was.
So really, amongst musicians, everybody is pretty much open to diversity. There's equality. It's really the corporate structures, the business part, or in education, the professors. They seem to be the ones that aren't accepting, or perhaps people in the audience that are, shall I say, chauvinistic. It's old school people. It's
Yeah,
not.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can, put it down to a certain, it's teachers or it's this or it's, administrators. I think that, look, a lot of people grew up with a lot of different belief systems, whether it's you're racist or you're misogynist or, you just have different belief systems, however you grew up. And whatever you end up doing for a living, it's going to affect that. And you're going to bring those belief systems, with you. But I really feel like there are so many incredible women out there right now that are doing so many amazing things. The time is now that women are and should be taken as seriously as men. There are women scientists that are changing the world. There are women athletes that are incredible. I watch Serena Williams play tennis and I'm just like, oh my God, and there are women doctors. There are, mothers out there raising amazing kids. So I really think that, yeah, it just depends on how you grew up, with how you're going to believe going forward. But boy, it's 2020. We need to lay down those old belief systems no matter what you do, and and take people at who they are and what they do, and what human beings they are.
Out of curiosity, when you were getting into the business, Did you see any pay disparity between men and women? Do you think you were paid the same as perhaps a male saxophonist?
I definitely see pay discrimination mostly on the business side. You know, I have a lot of friends that are women in the music business, and I would see my friends get paid a whole hell of a lot less than men who had the same jobs. And that, you know, is that's just unfair. I mean, there's no reason that as an A&R person, a woman should get paid 30% less than a man. There's no reason that, you know, any of us should. And I'm really uh, I'm just so happy to see in recent years that women have really fought for it, and they've, you know, we have stood up for ourselves and said, this is not okay. We have different strengths than you guys. We're going to run things differently. We are equally as capable. We are equally as powerful, and you know, you need to respect that. And I love that. You know, I was a part of the Recording Academy for many years as an elected leader. I was on the board of governors. I was the president of the Los Angeles chapter of the Recording Academy, and I was a national trustee for them over the span of 10 years. And I watched that organization really make a priority to, you know, give women a platform where they could flourish. They realized that it was harder for women to be in the music business. They realized that it was harder on a business level for women to flourish and keep their jobs and get paid the same. So I love it. You know, without being unfair, they really understood that women weren't being represented as men and really have tried to create, you know, parity for women and men in the music business. And I just applaud that. And I know a lot of other businesses are taking that stance as well. And that's what we should all be doing.
You're involved with, well, you have your website, Pretty Good for a Girl, based on your song, which is based on your experiences. I think I saw on Instagram you were at NAM in January in AMM.
Yeah.
Yeah, and aren't you involved in some kind of women's organization there or something? Didn't you do some speaking?
Yeah. So
Tell me about
there's an awards show called the She Rocks Awards.
Okay, that's it.
And it's such a cool program. I mean, look, uh, the Grammys are amazing and the Billboard Awards and the, you know, there's a million awards, you know, the Oscars and all these things. There's a million awards shows that are for everything. But so many times as women, we don't get the chance to be with each other. I mean, I love being with guys. My whole band is guys. Most of the people I play with are men. I love hanging out with the guys. But wow, to have a night that it's all women and not just women, badass women. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to see Linda Perry getting an award next to Lizzie Hale getting an award next to, you know, me getting an award next to an incredible business person who created a guitar line for women getting an award. You know, they just spend an entire night on women, and that just doesn't happen very often. And so it's super fun to be in that room. It's super inspiring. I co-hosted it this past year with Lindsay Parker. She has a show called, I believe it's Volume on Sirius XM, and she's, you know, an incredible powerhouse with big pink hair. But we had fun co-hosting it and just being there. I've been a performer in recent years, and I actually got their Mad Skills Award probably 5 years ago or so now. But it's just awesome to have women recognized and be a part of it and become friends with each other. I think so much of, you know, we as women getting recognized and being respected comes from us. We have to show each other respect, and be right with each other and be friends and help each other and be there for each other. So I think that's just the name of the game, you know.
So it's basically a support group in a sense, everybody sticking together and doing their thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? Yeah, it's just an event that celebrates women. So, yeah, it is women celebrating each other. And boy, it just feels good. It's just I always walk out after that night with a big smile on my face, just thinking all these women are so deserving. It's so fun to get together because we are all in our little worlds. I'm off in my jazz or rock world, and then my other friends are, off in their, blues or songwriting world, and we don't get to hang all the time. And that happens with anyone, women, men, any business. But it's just a fun night to hang and celebrate each other. And I wish it happened once a week.
It's interesting. I was looking through all the people that you've collaborated with, and they're men. Maybe you should do a song with another woman.
You know what? I am so with you. And I've actually thought, wow, if I could do a women's collaboration album, and do duets and play with women. And it's funny, I just didn't know that many of them. I can make a list of women that I'm so hugely a fan of, but all the collaborations that I've been a part of have literally come from being in the same room or playing in someone's band or just getting to know someone at a really, kind of pedestrian level and just saying, hey, would you want to write a song? Would you want to play? And, from Joe Perry from Aerosmith to Greg Allman,
Greg Allman, I couldn't believe it. I listened to that song. It was really good too. I really liked it. And how did that come about?
Greg Allman came about because we were playing the 60th birthday of Paul Allen. Paul Allen started Microsoft. He was one of the co-founders of Microsoft. Paul was turning 60 and he's a huge music fan. So he decided, he's got enough money to really do whatever he would like to. He's a music fan. He decided to hire a bunch of cool artists and just basically have this huge concert in New Orleans.
Wow.
So I was in the house band and I got to play for all these artists. I got to play for Chrissy Hind, Greg Allman, Dr. John. It was just a Joe Walsh. I mean, it was amazing. It was just a pinch me moment. But Greg and I, sat backstage and I just looked at him and went, look, I'm about to make a record that I see it as a career record. I had just gotten off the road with Aerosmith, and I just said, I need help from my friends to bring all of me into a record. And, I've moonlighted with all these rock bands and blues bands, from Aerosmith to Max Weinberg to Duran to, all these different people. But I've never brought it back to my own career. And I want that more rootsy vibe. I want some rock and roll in there. I want that abandon of singing from the heart. And I just said, you are pure. You are just soul. I feel your soul when you sing. Would you be on this record? And he just said, sure, darling. Well, we should write something. And I wasn't ready for that. And so I went to his house for 3 days. I stayed at his house.
In Georgia?
It was
in Georgia?
Yep, right outside of Savannah. And it was just the craziest 3 days. It was beautiful. He's a beautiful guy. His girlfriend came in, his drug dealer came in. I mean, it was just a circus of crazy stories in this, real cool little place outside of Savannah. And we wrote this beautiful song, Just Say When. We recorded it in the back of a pharmacy down the street. I mean, anything you just can't imagine.
The quality's pretty good. Well, someone must have mastered it after.
But that's, those things come about because you're in a space that you get to know someone. and you collaborate with them. And I want that to happen with women. I want to, you know, I want to forge those relationships with women that I can just say, hey, would you be on, this new record? So I want that as a,
Okay, let's make a list,
in my
Mindy.
life.
Who do you want? Let's make a list. If you could have someone, who would you like to collaborate with?
Well, I've already asked Linda Perry if she would write something with me. I'm such a fan of her, and she's written so many hits for amazing women, Pink and Dolly Parton, and just incredible artists. She's an incredible artist herself. So one day I will, make that happen. Bonnie Raitt. I'm such a huge Bonnie Raitt fan. I just think she'd be amazing. Sheryl Crow. I'm a huge Sheryl Crow fan. Emmy Harris.
Beth Hart, because
I love Beth
I
Hart.
love Beth too.
Her voice, just you feel her, don't you?
Yes, I saw her in February in London. When I was there, I photographed her, and I just love her. She's really down to earth. I mean, you can't get any more down to earth than that. But
No, you're right.
I would love to see you. I mean, because obviously you work with Joe Bonamassa, and they work together all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
That would be like super cool to have you guys,
I love her. And you were at the festival with me, my festival down in Punta Gorda, that I had Larkin Poe.
Yeah,
And
that would be, and I love them too. Yep.
I love their energy. I love that they're heartfelt and that, they're sisters. They're coming at you with love and with energy, and it's all good. They're such amazing role models. They sing from the heart. I love those girls. I think they're so cool. So yeah, see, I mean, we've got most of a record right there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of my things I wanted to mention to you. Look, you've collaborated with a zillion men. You're all about female empowerment. Mindy, it's time for you to make an album with some women.
I agree. I totally agree. Your lips to God's ears, and let's put it out there in the universe and see if we can make that happen.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's time. And you know what I noticed about your career too? You started out as a saxophonist, but then you got into, well, and obviously you're a songwriter, but you then got into singing. And like with Greg Allman, you're singing, you're not playing the sax. And I've seen you play at the piano, and I love it when you do just simple singing in the piano. Maybe you should do the piano more often even.
You know what? I love that you say that. When the pandemic hit, I'm at home with my husband, and I'm like, wow, okay, I feel cut off from the entire world. And so that first week I went on and just said, hey, I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and I don't have anyone to play with me. So I'm going to play piano for you, or I'm just going to play saxophone a cappella, and cool. And a bunch of people said what you said, like, "Oh, we've never seen you play piano. Wow, you should play more piano." And
I remember the song. You sang a new one that was a slow ballad on the piano, and I can't remember it, but it was gorgeous. So it must be something that you had written not long ago.
I just wrote a song called "Where There's a Woman, There's a Way," and I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yes.
I wrote it on piano with my friend Jim Peterick, who's awesome rock star. He wrote "Eye of the Tiger" and, "Hold On Loosely" and all those amazing songs. But I wrote this with him. And so, I'm home, I'm just playing it on piano. We just recorded it in March, and it was just before the pandemic hit. And so, it's in my brain, and, we had this huge string section come in, and it's this, kind of soaring anthem about, where there's a woman, there's a way. We make things happen. We are this powerhouse, these powerhouses, our mothers, us, we're here. We need to pass that down and carry the torch. And so, yeah, I sat at my piano and played "Where There's a Woman, There's a Way," because no one had heard it. And, I had recorded it in the studio, and it's so hard to keep new music in. So I got to play more piano, and I take that as a challenge. I'm not a great piano player, but I love to play, and it's a different way to kind of express myself as an artist too.
Actually, I was listening. I love your new song Forever. I want to talk about that. I wonder, do you write on the piano first, or do you actually write the songs on the saxophone? Because the melodies are very similar to, like, I could see it being played on the piano. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It depends on the song. I write songs different ways. And it just depends. I can be in my car and be kind of singing a melody, and I'll come back and figure out what it is on piano, and I'll write it down from the piano. That'll be my source. But I'll just hear things in my head, and either figure them out on sax, and then figure out the chords on piano. But there are times I'm just sitting at a piano and just come up with things there, and it's a great source of inspiration to just be able to play a few chords, and let it let it kind of drive you.
Did you learn to play the piano before the sax or after?
Actually, when we first moved to Florida after we were on the road, I was about 5 years old, and I started piano lessons then. I think my parents were super tired of me just beating on the piano that was in the house, so they figured, let's give her lessons, and let it make a little bit of sense instead of be this just beating on a piano. So I started piano lessons when I was 5, and I probably took for 7 or 8 years, lessons which were classical lessons. But boy, once I found saxophone when I was 8, it just all became about the saxophone. So the piano kind of took this back seat of something that allowed me to write music and allowed me to play. But saxophone kind of took that front seat. And I would always sing, and I love that you mentioned that. I would always sing, but it's taken kind of turns in my career. My very first record I put out when I was on the road with the Backstreet Boys as their keyboardist and sax player and percussionist, and I had all these songs. They were all vocal songs, and there were no saxophone centric songs. And I recorded a whole record, Always and Never the Same, that I released as an indie artist. And it wasn't until probably 2001 that the A&R guy from Verve Records, Bud Harner, came in and went, would you make an instrumental record for Verve Records? That would be really cool to hear you as a saxophonist. He's like, you can still sing. But I think people would really relate to you as a saxophonist. You're so emotive, and it's such an extension of yourself as a different voice. And I took him up on it. I thought it was an amazing idea. I wanted to expand more and grow as a saxophonist. And you know what? That was the start of when my career just really started to take off, was signing with Verve Records. So, throughout my career now, different records are, half and half vocal to instrumental, or a couple vocals over here and more instrumental. You never know. I kind of go with how I'm feeling. It's a snapshot of my life at that point.
Well, with the Bone Shakers, you do a lot of singing, and
Yeah.
you do saxophone playing at the same time. I'm thinking, how could she be out of breath? She's singing and then jumping to the sax, and then I don't know how you do it, but
Yeah, I mean, certain songs, yeah, you do go back and forth pretty often. Pretty Good for a Girl is exactly that. It's a lot of sax playing, but it's a vocal song. I wrote that song, I wrote the lyrics just me, and I brought it to Randy Jacobs from the Bone Shakers, and I just said, all right, here's my little tongue in cheek. You've seen everyone come up after shows and shake my hand and go, wow, you're pretty good for a girl. And and so he laughed, and he's like, okay, we got to write this song. You're totally right. This is your song to write. And so bringing it to Randy and the guys, it became this anthem. It became this just total, in your face, huge anthem. Then we brought Joe Bonamassa in to play on it, and it grew from this 3.5 minute tongue in cheek anthem to 7.5 minute just extravaganza. So that was a fun thing to kind of sing a song and have it be that meaningful, but then just rip into a sax solos immediately. So yeah, sometimes it is good to be able to go back and forth quickly. That
Yeah,
song
it's
takes that.
hard. I mean, and how heavy is the sax anyway, pound wise? Because you're petite. I mean, you're having to carry that thing around.
I think it's about the same as a guitar, but just like a guitar, they have straps, guitar
Yeah.
players, and I've got a strap as well. You have a saxophone strap that goes around your neck that kind of takes the bulk of it off. So you're not playing with that thing all day. I don't know. I'm guessing it's probably 6, 7 pounds. I've never weighed it. That's going to be
That's a lot.
that's a lot, right?
Hanging on
Yeah.
you. I just wondered. Yeah, and you're dancing at the same time, and you're wearing like 5-inch heels. So
My workout. Some people actually, do yoga or jog or, do that kind of stuff. No, I play saxophone. That's my workout.
well, and I noticed lately on your live streams, you've been playing, is it like a synthesizer sax or some kind of new sax that was given to you to try out?
Yeah, Yamaha sent me this digital saxophone, and it looks like a soprano saxophone, except it's black and kind of, it looks a little Darth Vader-ish. It's pretty cool. And it's digital. There's an app on my phone that, that kind of clicks into it, and you can do anything on it. It's really been fun. And Yamaha sent it to me just to try out, and what do you think of it? Really as a prototype. And now they're putting it out. It's coming out in November. So it's become this real thing, but I've just been playing around with it. And obviously, we've all, been a part of a pandemic. We've all been stuck in our houses, all of us that tour for a living. It's a different year. You can't be on tour this year. So I'm in my house playing my little digital saxophone and my real saxophone that's a lot louder, and just kind of having fun with all of it, staying inspired.
The digital one, I guess you can hook it up to an amp and play through an amp. Just
You
was
can hook it
curious
up to
because I've never
anything.
seen anything like it.
I hadn't either. That's why, it's not a toy. It's a real amazing instrument, but I just had fun with it like it was my new toy. And so it actually has a speaker built into it that, creates the sound. But you can, plug it into anything, and you can, run it through speakers. You can do whatever with it. It's got ins and outs, but it's pretty fun. And you can have a, sound of a flute, or you can have the sound of a saxophone, or, you can have anything like that. It's
Oh,
pretty
wow.
amazing. Yeah.
So that's pretty wild. So are they gearing it towards professionals, or can students play it too? Just out of curiosity.
I actually think that they're billing it, that they're creating it more for students, or, maybe someone that's, older, that has always wanted to play a sax, but, it's a little daunting. You got to get the embouchure, you've got to get the reed right, and you've got to get the airflow right. With this, all of that is superfluous. If you have the fingerings, you can make music. You don't need to have, you don't need to have the right embouchure. Your reed doesn't have to be perfect. For us saxophone players, we know that that's kind of a big deal. And, it makes it easier to learn. So I really think they're going after that kind of consumer field that, isn't professionals, but it's people who love to make music, and it's just a fun instrument to make music on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as far as like breath control and all that, you wouldn't have to do that necessarily.
No.
Maybe it's a good starter instrument even before someone goes to the acoustic version.
I think so. I mean, it's the same fingerings, it's the same approach, it's the same feel, but you definitely have probably what is the biggest hangup of people, becoming saxophone players. It's that embouchure, it's that mouthpiece and reed. You're dealing with a piece of wood that, isn't gonna react well every day. And it's a game we saxophonists play that isn't sexy. and that stops more people in their tracks from learning saxophone than we care to admit. So I think it's a really cool instrument for just someone to pick up that has always wanted to learn saxophone, and it takes that away and just lets you play, and it's very freeing. So I don't know. We'll see how it does on the market, but I think it's exciting, and I've had a lot of fun just being inspired by the different sounds. And you can sit out in your backyard. No one's going to yell at you. You're just playing. It can be any level, and I can be a baritone sax, or I can be a synthesizer, and it's pretty cool.
It gives you a lot of options there for being
Yeah.
creative. Perfect pandemic toy.
I know.
Yeah.
Not held back by anything. Just kind of have fun with it. But yeah, I think we all need things to keep us occupied and engaged during the pandemic.
Well, the song Forever, you wrote that, you recorded in March, so obviously that was before the pandemic. I absolutely love that song. It's danceable too. I mean, it's kind of rocking, and then you have this pause in the middle, and then it goes back into the whole melody and the chorus again, and you've got the B3 going on, and I mean, it's.
Oh yeah.
What did you start one day playing around with the sax and came up with a melody? What kind of got you inspired to do Forever?
That melody has been in my head for a really long time. And I got together with a couple friends to kind of just make it, create a song around it. So my friend Tyrone Stevens, I've written with, oh my gosh, I think we've got songs together on every one of my albums. So we've written together for a lifetime. And my friend Wayne Rodriguez, we have songs on a lot of my records, but they're both just, close friends. And this melody did expand and did kind of grow and have this life of its own. And it was fun to create this song. I've been writing and kind of coming up with all these ideas as I've been in Mindi Abair and the Bone Shakers. Mm-hmm. And I've been in this band setting for now 4 records. And I had all these songs piling up that I had written, and they weren't right for the Bone Shakers. That was a group of it was total energy and abandon and rock and roll and blues, but these songs were more personal, and they were they were a little touchy-feelier. And so I felt like, wow, I've got to go back to me. I've got to go back to being a solo artist and record all these songs that I have in my head and that I've been, kind of holding on to and not recording. So March was a perfect time. The first week in March, I got together and brought my friends together. And it was some of the guys from my normal band, Rodney Lee, that, has played with me for almost 20 years now as my keyboardist. Abel Boreal Jr. came in. We were such good friends in college, and we've remained such close friends. But he's on the road with.
Phenomenal. I was watching him in the video. It's like, holy cow!
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's spent the last 20 years with Paul McCartney, so he's a little hard to get. You get him when you can. And Sean Hurley came in to play bass. He's usually with John Mayer. And it was, it was pretty cool. Tim Pierce played guitar. Not a lot of people know his name, but Tim Pierce is kind of the
He's
guitar.
a studio guy, right? He's a session musician. Yeah.
Yep. He's the guy, like the Goo Goo Dolls, Iris. He's all the mandolin on that and that cool slide guitar solo. And he's done everything from Bon Jovi to, Goo Goo Dolls to every record. I mean, this guy is just on thousands of records. His YouTube page is the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life, because he breaks down what he plays on these records, and it's just super cool. But we went in the studio, and you know what? We just made a record, and we had fun, and all these songs that I had been kind of holding on to and that weren't right for what I was in were all of a sudden right. And we created this sound for them, and it was just super fun, and Forever became the title track. And so I didn't release the record this year. This year is such an odd year, and I want to wait till I can tour to really, put out the record and be able to tour with it and support it like it should be supported. But I wanted to put out music, so I put out Forever. I couldn't wait. And as we speak,
How
it
many
just
times I've
moved up
listened to it in the
chart.
car and
Oh,
just, yeah, because I have YouTube music in the car and there's just something about that song. It's uplifting, it's
uh,
happy, it's danceable, and it sounds like you guys have great chemistry together, like you are having fun.
yeah. Well,
I mean, I can
sure.
feel it when just like by listening to it and everything.
I love that. And I always feel that if you put the right people in a room to make music together, that's going to translate. And I've learned through the years, make music with people you love, and it's going to be honest, and it's going to come across that way, and it's going to have that spirit of who the people are that created it. And being in a room with those guys, it was just so much fun. So it was great. We actually mixed it, during the pandemic. Went in and put my mask on and sat about 15 feet back from the board, and we mixed it, and it's a different way to make a record. But you know what, we got in before the world shut down, and we were the last project that any of us did. I mean, the world shut down just right as we were finishing our tracks, and so we all just looked at each other and went, okay, I don't know when the next time I'll see you is. Be safe. And there it is, the world shut down. So it's good to make music.
I was curious about the video. It was filmed and you guys are performing. Did you put the music in after, or is that actually the singing? I always wonder, how do they do it with the music videos? Do they dub it after with the lips, lip syncing, or I don't know.
Actually, no, the video that we made was recorded as we were recording the track in the
Oh, wow.
studio. So I had my friend come in and video the sessions.
The
Because
real session.
the
Okay.
real sessions, yeah. So I always feel like you want someone in there, taking stock of it, and you've got it for history's sake. You've got those sessions, you got how they went down, and it's just nice to look back to, and have that kind of for history's sake. So yeah, that was the video that you saw, was the
The
making
real
of.
deal.
That was the
Wow.
recording of the track.
And everybody's laughing and having a good time, and you feel that when you listen to it.
Yeah.
You
Oh
do
yeah.
feel that. I mean, it's I really like it a lot.
Thank
I
you.
do, and it's almost, I can almost hear lyrics to it too, because the melody is so good. I
I love
wonder
that.
if in the future, if you ever would make it into a song.
I might. There are a lot of instrumentals that I have that I've, recorded through the years that do have lyrics, that
Yeah.
I have written lyrics to,
Oh,
whether before or after. There's a song called Amazing Game that's on my Wild Heart record that has lyrics.
uh-huh.
There's a song called Alive that we recorded in March that has lyrics, but I recorded it as an instrumental. So I really think sax is just a different voice, and it's fun to kind of use that voice instead of my voice. Sometimes I think it can be stronger for different songs. Lyrics have their own power, but sometimes just a sound and a feeling is stronger.
Yeah, listening to your songs that you have written with lyrics, they all seem autobiographical.
I think you write about what you know about,
Yeah, but
and
even the one with Greg Allman, it seems, I don't know, it seems real. The stuff that you write about is authentic. I guess that's
oh,
what.
thank you for saying that. But yeah, definitely the song I wrote with Greg Allman, he's singing about like he's traveled so many miles, and
Paris and here and there, and yeah.
yeah, it was all very autobiographical from both of our sides,
Mhm.
singing that as a
You
duet.
traveled. Yeah.
We wanted it to be us. It was,
Mhm.
we wrote the song, we were singing it, um, And I think it really definitely mirrored who we were, and made for a personal song. It wasn't like, oh, let's write a song for some other artist. What do you want to write about? No, I'm not great at that.
Now, this year, COVID, you've been doing your live streaming and everything. I know nobody knows what's going to happen with the world. Do you have any kind of plans, or let's say for 2021, what do you envision yourself doing?
So many of the shows that canceled for this year, rescheduled for next year. We were supposed to do the Tampa Bay Blues Festival, which I was so excited to do this year. It did not happen, but it is rescheduled for
April. I saw April. I want to be there.
21. You better be there. So, all we can hope is that the world heals a bit, and that hopefully we can control this disease, and that we can all stay healthy and figure out a way to come back to making music. And throughout this year, look, we've all been home. Every musician I know that tours like I do for a living, we've all been home. And so it's been a rough year for musicians and artists.
Yeah.
And so we can just hope that 2021 opens up and it becomes something. I have a huge tour schedule right now for 2021, and I've got my fingers crossed that it all happens. I mean, my wine company that I have with my husband, Reserve Tastings, we are doing adventures. We call them adventures because they are. We're going to Sonoma, California for this wine and music adventure where I'm going to play every night. And my husband's a wine guy, so he's going to take us around to all the, super cool wineries and eat and drink and have fun. And we're going to do the same thing in Tuscany in the fall of 2021 and just, eat great food and pasta and cheese and drink great wine and play music. But all of this is dependent on, can we get a handle on this disease, and can we be safe? So fingers crossed. I wear my mask everywhere and I am being safe because I want to go back and play.
Your lungs, your health is your instrument. Your singing, your sax. I mean, it is critical when you're a musician, and that's what you do.
Yeah. I'm not playing around with this.
Even freaking colds. I mean, really, that blows, everything.
Yeah. No, I'm not playing around with this. I'm being safe. And, we've been doing concerts on my back porch every Tuesday just to keep this going. I mean, it started, you were talking about me playing piano and stuff, just in my living room, but it's come now to where, okay, they say that being outside is safer than being inside. And I live in Los Angeles, so I can actually have a friend over to play with me now. I'm like, whoa, okay. So I'll, socially distance on my back porch and, be 6 feet away from someone, and we'll make music together. And that's been the most amazing thing, just to stay connected. It reminds me that I'm a performer, and it keeps me connected to the people I love, whether it's my friends, my family, fans that have come to every show. So it's been this really cool way to kind of stay connected and stay making music in this, odd environment.
Speaking of industry, we're going to kind of close out, but I saw you're involved with Music Cares.
Yeah.
That helps musicians, and Lord knows this year, a lot of musicians need help because you all are independent contractors. You're not working for a company per se, you're working for yourself, and health insurance and benefits. And I mean, a lot of people, I interviewed last week a female sound engineer, and the industry isn't just musicians. We're talking everybody from security guards to people that make merch to venues. There's a lot of people that are affected by this COVID. And what does Music Cares do exactly for musicians?
It's interesting. I don't think a lot of people know what Music Cares is. They know the company that's behind it, the Recording Academy, the company that puts on the Grammys. But the Recording Academy people know from that one night of them giving out awards, but what they do all year is incredible. The charities that have come from the Recording Academy are just monumental. Music Cares is a charity that is from the Recording Academy, and they raise millions of dollars a year, and they put it towards people who create music. And you said it so eloquently. I mean, all these people that are musicians, that play instruments, that tour, that write songs, we are self-employed. We don't have 401ks. We don't have group insurance plans. None of that is provided for us. There is no, safety net for musicians and people who create art and music. So to have an organization like the Grammys, like the Recording Academy, that creates this safety net is amazing. And I have referred friends over the years who, have something awful go wrong, whether, it's some terrible thing like cancer, or they need a kidney transplant, or, something happens that you can't support your family because you're going through this awful health crisis. Whether you have insurance or not, sometimes it's debilitating. And they are that safety net for the music community. And it's incredible. So I've always tried to support in any way I can, whether it's playing for them, whether it's just getting the word out. The last thing that we did, we just released a wine this past week because we've got a wine and music company. And so we released a very special wine that's this incredible high-end St. Helena Cabernet. And the proceeds are going to Music Cares. And it's awesome. It's sold out within a day and a half, this offering. And so it's great. It makes me feel great that Music Cares gets this money and that it goes to an amazing cause. And people get to drink more wine, which we all are drinking more wine during the pandemic.
I was wondering about that. Even though like the restaurants have been limited or hotels, everybody, all my girlfriends, that's the first thing they stocked up on during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Was wine.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Look, we started our wine company, Reserve Tastings, a little over a year ago. And, pre-pandemic, and we were just like, you know what? I've spent my life making music. My husband has spent his life as an executive in the wine industry. So let's do what we love, right? Let's do what we love, but be together more and do it together. So he finds amazing wines, and then I put playlists to them. I find amazing artwork or create the artwork that's all music centric. And each wine has this playlist that pairs specifically to the wine. So we've had so much fun doing it. But boy, the pandemic hit. We were supposed to be on the road. We were supposed to be out with a bunch of people every week, doing wine tastings before the shows. It all came to a halt. But as you say, everyone wants to drink. And so really our wine business has gone through the roof this year. And it's been so fun to kind of bond with people on a different level. It's not just music. Now it's, what are you drinking? And I'm going to play you some music. So it's fun to kind of give people a variety of things, wine and music that they can sink their teeth into, and hopefully we can all stay happy together.
Great escapism.
I know.
That and Netflix.
Oh my God. Yeah. We've seen everything on Netflix. Oh my God.
That's all we've been doing. No, yeah. I love seeing you guys, the dynamic duo, do your live stream every Tuesday. She does it, it's 8:00, I think, Eastern time, I believe. Yeah.
5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We go live, and there's music and there's wine.
With her husband, Eric. Sometimes he picks up the guitar. I was impressed when you did the ukulele one day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He actually retired the ukulele. I mean, he was a guy who played guitar like in college to get girls, but once we got to a space where we could have someone else on the back porch, then he was like, okay, I've retired. I'm not a real musician. I'm a wine guy. So have your people. I thought he did a good job, right?
He held his own. Actually, I liked it.
He was like, I'm going back to my regular job. You can be with your friends now that play music. I was like, okay, fine. Just bring us wine. It's good.
Yeah, that's so funny. Um, Anything you'd like to tell people before we go?
No, this has been so fun to sit and talk with you. And, like you said, it's like we have to spend time with our girlfriends, and we have to, create those bonds and make it special, whether we're making music or whether we're just being friends or whether we're, supporting each other or just having a good time drinking some wine. So it's just nice to spend some time with you and be on your podcast. It's cool.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to Rock at Night.
The introductory song, Get On Down, is from blues artist Billy Bass Alford. Look for his music at ReverbNation.com.